Hi, it's Colin Coward from the Colin Coward Podcast. Do you know the symptoms of moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA, in adults with obesity? They may be happening to you without your knowing. If anyone's ever said you snore loudly, or if you spend your days fighting off excessive tiredness, irritability, concentration issues, it may be due to OSA. OSA is a serious condition where your airway partially or completely collapses during sleep, which may cause breathing interruptions and oxygen deprivation. Learn more at don'tsleeponosa.com. This information provided by Lilly, a medicine company.
Hi, this is Gronk from Dudes on Dudes. I'm here to tell you about protecting your end zone with wet, extra large flushable Dude Wipes. Unlike dry wiping with toilet paper, Dude Wipes clear instead of smear. Wetter cleans better. Goodbye dingleberries. Goodbye itch and irritation. Plus, if you take Gronk-sized grumpies, or as I like to call them, Gronkies, baby wipes won't do. You need extra big Dude Wipes to handle the job. So don't fumble the ball with toilet paper. Stop being an a-hole to your b-hole and start using Dude Wipes. Available on Amazon and major retailers nationwide. Dude Wipes. Best clean, pants down.
This is Julian Edelman from Games with Names. Fantasy football can be exhausting. I mean that literally. You're so anxious over your lineup, you can't fall asleep. Best way to deal with it is Unisom. There's a reason it's the #1 doctor-recommended over-the-counter sleep aid brand. It helps you fall asleep faster, wake up less, and feel refreshed in the morning. Plus, Unisom sleep tabs are clinically tested and proven effective and completely non-habit forming. So, make the ultimate sleeper pick and put it to bed with Unisom. Use as directed.
Former Panthers safety Kurt Coleman spent 3 seasons with Carolina, the first of which was part of that outstanding Super Bowl 50 team. Proud product of Ohio State University. He works at Charlotte Latin High School these days, in addition to the work you hear him do with us on the Carolina Panthers radio network broadcasting games. Looking forward to a great conversation with Kurt Coleman.
30 seasons of Panther football, a celebration of the players, coaches, and other key figures who've contributed to the organizational success.
Kurt Coleman, I love him not just because he's an Ohio State guy, but one of our favorite Panthers of all times. And anytime he's on a broadcast with us, it makes it a better experience as well. And great to get to spend some time learning about Kurt, how he got to where he is in his young life to this point so far. And so glad he's part of this Charlotte community to this day. Kurt, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me today. I always enjoy the booth. I learned so much from you guys, and so the pleasure's all mine, and thank you for having me on today.
Well, you're a natural, and I'll tell you one thing before we get into, kind of going through your life a little bit here, is just your preparation. I mean, it's just evident. You show up ready to roll, and you don't know this, but there are some players on other teams in college, broadcasting or whatever, and they'll kind of show up and they'll get the depth chart, and they'll just look in and react to what they see. And you do all of that. You react to what you see and explain it to us so well. But, I mean, really, preparation, that's kind of part of just your game no matter what you do, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I believe, if you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail. And I think in order to articulate and really, I think, communicate your thoughts as best as possible to anyone, you need to know what you're talking about. And I know the game of X's and O's, but you don't necessarily always know the players, especially, I would say, especially when we call the preseason games. But in general, I mean, there's so many moving parts in the NFL. And in order to best talk about who they are, and there's a reason why. There's a reason why the GM made a move, or the coaches are playing this guy, or why a player is playing a certain technique. And in order to know that, you better know what you're talking about. And so, yeah, I learned a lot just from the game of football of preparing, because there was a time where I had to learn the hard way. But then, when you're around a guy like Mick Mixon, he doesn't let the little things slip by the wayside. And how he could just describe certain scenes. I actually, said, I need to do a lot better. So he taught me just from watching him. I'm like, I can bring a little more to my game.
Oh, absolutely. And, of course, with Mick leaving, at least now we can eat in the booth, which was not allowed back when Mick was working there. So there's a give and take with Mick. Let's just put it that way.
Slipping Sundays were delicious this past weekend.
That's right. Yeah, some places you don't want to eat the media food. But this week was pretty good. We're at Philadelphia this past time. We had Kurt in the booth here. But we love that. We love Mick. And Mick's been on this podcast before. And, that preparation, too. It's football as a player. And we talk about as a broadcaster. But tell folks what you're doing, and you've been at Charlotte Latin High School the last 6-7 years, your role there and what that means to you and what the job is like for you.
Yeah, it's been a rewarding one where I went to school to become a teacher, and then when I graduated, obviously I went into the career that has really elevated a lot of opportunities for me. It's given me a great platform to do a lot of great and wonderful things around the communities that I've been able to live in. And then now, since I've been in Charlotte, I started prepping for this position a few years actually before my career ended in the NFL. And as we started talking about what and how and where I can make the most impact, I really did feel like I needed to have almost an administrative role to be able to help oversee a lot of things through the whole school. So at Charlotte Latin, this position had not been created before as the stewardship and scholarship administrator, to be able to help create new practices and policies and really help oversee a lot of our financial aid families, and really making sure that the policies that we had in place were working. But if they weren't, how do we change it and how do we help create some new ones? And so creating bridges into our underserved communities, I think I absolutely love it. And being able to see students and families and see them walk across the line at graduation and get their diploma. I mean, and to see where they're going. And now I have some students that they're about to graduate from college. I mean, it's just so cool to see that this is not only changing their life, but generations beyond that. And I always feel like it's so much easier, and this world will be a better place when we lift other people up instead of try to drag people down. And being in the position that I am and at a school that it is high academics, but also it's whatever you want to do. If you want to be in the arts, if you want to be in the athletics, if you want to be in engineering, if you just want to be just an all-around, just well-rounded person, there is a place here for that. And I want to help see that through. So it's been a great thing, but I learned it from my dad and my mom of the career paths that they chose. And this obviously is something that I'm able to help carry on, hopefully to my kids.
And you and I have talked before. I know your dad was involved in schools as an administrator, I think assistant principal and some other jobs. Are you saying your mom was also? Were they both in education?
Not necessarily. My mom was a speech pathologist, and she worked with veterans. So being able to see veterans and, again, help see and serve them after they would come back and they would deal with different types of issues, whether they had a stroke or whatever the case may be, and they're learning how to really swallow. And then from swallowing, it's to talking and doing all those little things. Just the acts of service is something that my parents both showed me. My dad had coached well before I was even born. And he would tell me funny stories about Butch and Chris Carter and Ken Griffey Jr. and all these things about these guys that even Hugh Douglas at Central State. I mean, all these guys that he had an opportunity to see, coach, or be around, and it's like, wow. And I was only hoping that I could be in that position when I got older. And so, yeah, it's serving and really just being able to help see other people be successful in their own right.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations. That's really rewarding work, and you do great at it. And, talk about your dad, the Hall of Fame list of high school athletes back in the day. You grew up in Dayton, so for folks who don't know, it's probably, close to 2 hours away from Columbus. Obviously, you go to Ohio State. You and I talk Buckeyes all the time. Was it always Ohio State for you? Were they always interested in you, or what was the recruiting process for you, like coming out of the Dayton area?
Well, the Dayton has been, I think the dub name is Gem City. It is a gem in the state of Ohio, and I think there have been so many great players that come out of it, even more so now. But I mean, you look back, you have Keith Byers and so many great players that not only just went to Ohio State, but went to a lot of other areas. And so for me, you would think that Ohio State was my number one choice, but in fact it wasn't. It was actually the Miami Hurricanes. And if anyone knows how I play the game on the line of It's fair, but it's personal. And so I don't know why I always made it personal, but I always played with that edge of, I'm here to inflict pain on you. And so watching the Miami Hurricanes in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was like, oh, those are some bad mamma jammas down there. And the funny thing was, I remember the 2002 national championship game against Ohio State and Miami, and I was the only Miami Hurricane fan. We all know the outcome of that 0-2 game, where depending upon which side you're on, you were either the one where the refs made the right call or the refs made the wrong call. So I never thought in 1,000 years that I'd be an Ohio State Buckeye, but I am grateful that I was a Buckeye, and the fact that I had a chance to meet with Jim Tressel and see that, oh, hey, guess what? That school called the Ohio State Buckeyes, they had a lot of ballers on that side of the squad too. And you go back to the Jack Tatum days of just clotheslining people. I'm like, okay, I can be a DB over on this side and still do my thing. So it was great as I learned the game, and just the people that walked before me. I was really happy to kind of carry on that legacy there.
All right, and then you entered the NFL as a seventh-round pick of the Philadelphia Eagles, where you would play your first 4 years. And this starts bringing us into the Panther phase of the conversation here, because this is where you strike up that relationship and friendship with Sean McDermott, right? He's your defensive backs coach. Mm-hmm. He becomes your defensive coordinator a few years later in Carolina. You end your career in Buffalo with him as a head coach. How much did Sean McDermott mean to your pro career?
I think it was incredible. Again, you feel like there are, for me, I'm a man of faith, and there are people that God puts it all around you. Whether you recognize them or not, that's up to you. But when I first got to Philadelphia, I remember Sean, and I remember this vividly. Like he was very hard on rookies. The older guys he would kind of let go, and you gotta, and I had to understand that he was taking over a position that from Jim Johnson, who was, in my opinion, one of the Hall of Fame defensive coordinators in the NFL. So he was taking on a role of, he was trying to live up to the Jim Johnson name, and he had his own spin and flavor on things, but it was this very complicated defense, and he was hard on us. And I remember one day he goes, just so you know, I can go back there and play the game of football. And I laughed at him. I was like, there's no way you could do what we do. Well, I'm very naive at this time in my life. So, when you look at Sean's pedigree, being a national wrestler, going to William & Mary and being a great safety there, and unfortunately he never got the opportunity to play in the NFL. But his point of saying that was, if you're smart enough, if you prepare enough, and if you understand the game, you put yourself in positions. Now, it's whether or not you have the ability to make the play or not, but you can always stay one step ahead if you prepare it well enough. And that's the lesson that he gave me, was you can stay around this game for a long time. You just better be able to work and do all the little things that's going to take to stay in this game. And sure enough, I was fortunate enough to have a year underneath him at Philadelphia. And then when it was my opportunity to hit free agency in 2015, it made sense to only come to Carolina and play underneath him again, because I knew within that defense I could be successful. And then obviously, just to finish off my career up in Buffalo, it was a great year, and it was some things that hopefully I was able to leave those guys around me. I went up there this past summer when we had a chance to call their game, and it was just great to be around that coaching staff and around Sean again.
Yeah, great to see Sean and Brandon Beane and that group all doing well, the former Panther connections there. And you mentioned signing as a free agent. You had a year in Kansas City in between Philadelphia and Carolina. You played 3 years with the Panthers, but that first year was the year, Super Bowl 50 year. Team goes 17-1 heading into that Super Bowl. And people need to remember, what a key figure you were on the field with that too. 7 interceptions and a touchdown that year. And you had 21 picks in your career, but 7, a third of them, come in that magical year. So not only a great defense, Kurt, but just talk about your role in that, and just what an amazing run that you guys had that year.
It was an incredibly special year. And I remember back in preseason, we were down in Wofford, in Spartanburg, and it was after a long hot practice, and whoever's been down to Spartanburg, there's something about that air where it just never moves and the heat just sits on you.
Yeah.
But I was doing an interview, and after I got done, I had called my dad, and we were just talking about how camp had gone or was going, and For me, I wasn't dubbed or penciled in as a starter. I think by all terms, I was going to be a really solid backup, and obviously can go in and sparingly. And I remember telling my dad, I said, "There's something special about this team," and he was like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm not sure, and you just couldn't put your finger on it. But whether it was the great mix of young with the veterans, and you had your classical Cam, but then you had the TD Cam. Like, if anyone was around practices, TD and Cam went at it every single day, and it was a competition between offense and defense. But then you would have Luke, who was like, he was quiet as far as verbal, but then he was so intense when it came to actual playing. And then you had the Jano, who was getting ready to have his come out party of I am Batman arriving on scene. So it was just so many mixes of personalities. It was such a great place. You wish you could capsize that moment in time. And, to go through that season, I knew this defense was going to be something special. We didn't have a lot of stars outside of Luke that were well known. You had great players like a TD, like I said. You had a KK Short, who was getting ready to go into his Pro Bowl years. You had an older classical guy of DeJuan Edwards, who had won a Super Bowl, that was helping tutor some of the young guys. You had Charles Johnson, and then you had Charles Tillman, Peanut Tillman, on our back end, who was the goofball of goofballs. But playing 13 years in the NFL, had been to a Super Bowl, was trying to knock on the door and get to another one. I mean, and then you had Roman Harper, who, to me, I mean, he was another, like, just glue piece to it all, because he had won a Super Bowl in 2009. He had been on some great teams in New Orleans. He was trying to help bring this Carolina Panthers defense and this team into where we were, in a Super Bowl contender. And then he just had this demeanor of, like, he was quick but never in a hurry. And it was like nothing ever rattled his cage. He always had just a calm demeanor, even to the point where we would always have a sprinting competition defense of who could get to the football the fastest when it was our turn to go out on a series for practice. And sure enough, like, Rome is just jogging out there. I'm like, are you ever going to move any faster than this? And he's like, why? But it was just like, it was such a perfect, just a perfect 53-man roster. And then you had some guys that just brought juice, that we called them the Juice Bros. Lou Young, who is doing his thing now in the entertainment circuit, and Dean Marlowe. I can go on with the guys. So that year was special, but for me, it was my time to shine. But all I had to do was my job. And that was what was so special, because you had great guys in front of you. I just had to just do my job. And when the ball came my way, you just make the play. And so it was just one of those times where a short piece of my career where Kurt just had to be Kurt, and you didn't have to do too much, and every year is different. When you break up a team, you either take on more of a role or you take a less of a role. But I felt like that 15-year was just the perfect sweet spot of I got to be me and be my fullest self. And I didn't have to take on any more responsibilities to take away from my actual role. So yeah, it was a great year, personally, professionally, but also just as a team. You could never replicate that season.
No, and this will be the last question because of time here. But I would just to follow up on that, say, that if that team wins that game against Denver with that record of going at that point 18-1, if you win, that's going to go down in the history books as one of the great teams in the history of the NFL. So my question, I've asked a couple guys, including Peanut Tillman, who didn't get to play, of course, because he got injured at the end of the regular season, but was there for you guys. What do you think went wrong? As you look at it and you look back at it through the years now, what happened on that Sunday that you guys weren't able to get that last win against the Broncos?
It was the perfect storm that whatever could have gone wrong, we picked the biggest game to play our worst game of the year. You think about defensively, I thought we played an incredible game, but I think Jano had dropped the interception at one point. But all in all, I always felt like our defense did exactly what we needed to do to win that game. Special teams, we gave up that big return in the second half. Mm-hmm. And then offensively, people will always say, the Cam Newton thing, but yeah, that was one thing that led to the score. But I think Mike Tolbert had fumbled, the Jericho Cotchery catch that was not a catch, that whatever you want to call it. I look at how the refs kind of called the game of at the very beginning. They set the tone that they were going to allow their DBs to be extra physical. There was a big personal foul on Philly Brown, I think on our first or second drive on offense. It was everything. And I also look at just kind of how we went into that week. I felt like something was always kind of off. And you try to say, what was it? I look at it like we were trying to, like, for whatever reason, we went the whole year of having all these foods. And then when we get out to San Jose, they had like gluten-free bread and all this stuff for us to eat. And I'm like, why are we changing everything now? It's the little things that, how it was interesting how just the order of which when we had to do the interviews post practices and, the whole week was a little off. And I think it played into the how we played the game. And, you can't blame anybody but yourself. And, could I have done more? I think I could have. I don't know what more I should have done, but, maybe I should have said something or done something. But I can always say to a man, I gave everything I had in that game. So I left it all out there. But, you always wish you could have made one extra play or done something differently to help turn the tide. And for whatever reason, we just couldn't get that game done. And I think 9 out of 10 times we beat Denver soundly, very soundly. I think the coaches could have had a different game plan, but hey, that will always go down in my memory. And I feel like there was like a survey of the best teams that never won. And I think that 2015 Panthers team was one of the best teams in the NFL that never won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, especially when you destroyed Arizona in that NFC championship game. And quick side note, we'll let you run, is to your point, Peyton Manning, I think for like 140 yards, no touchdowns in that game, got intercepted. And I had a vote in it. If the Panthers win the game, Coney Ealy is the MVP of that game because he had takeaways, he had sacks. I mean, he did everything. So kind of in typical Super Bowl fashion, not the biggest name. He would have absolutely been the MVP of that game based on just what he probably put out there on defense.
Without a doubt. I mean, that's like a Malcolm, was it Malcolm Smith from Seattle, the linebacker?
Mm-hmm.
It's those guys. I mean, a lot of times.
Remember Timmy Smith, the running back with the Washington back in the day?
Yeah, it's a lot of the guys that you don't expect to make their name, or to have that MVP, but they came to play. And Coney Ealy was, without a doubt, he had the exact same game that Von Miller had, who was the Super Bowl MVP that game, if not even better. So, because I don't think Von had an interception that game. So, it's just, it's frustrating. I don't even look at the ring, because it just reminds me of what we could have had. But I'm very thankful for the season that we did have. It was an incredible year, incredible group of men that I got to enjoy 2015 with, and some great friends that are still great friends to this day.
No, amazing run. It was fun to watch, and a bunch of great guys in addition to being players on that team. We enjoyed watching it. Hey, Kurt, always great to catch up with you. Look forward to the next time we see each other. Thanks so much for spending some time with us.
30 seasons of Panther football.
Get almost anything you need delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get a chicken parm delivered. A little escape? No. A delicious bowl of grapes? Yes, that. An afternoon stroll? Sorry, no. A burrito bowl? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now.
Hi, this is Gronk from Dudes on Dudes. I'm here to tell you about protecting your end zone with wet, extra large flushable Dude wipes. Unlike dry wiping with toilet paper, Dude wipes clear instead of smear. Wetter cleans better. Goodbye dingleberries. Goodbye itch and irritation. Plus, if you take Gronk-sized grumpies, or as I like to call them, Gronkies, baby wipes won't do. you need extra big dude wipes to handle the job. So don't fumble the ball with toilet paper. Stop being an a-hole to your b-hole and start using dude wipes. Available on Amazon and major retailers nationwide. Dude wipes. Best clean, pants down.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than just Peyton Manning. I'm also motivating Manning. When I say insurance, you say financial services. Insurance. Financial services. Insurance. Financial services. Now when I say nationwide, you say is both. Nationwide. Is both. Nationwide. Is both. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.